All right. Okay. We're about to open the phone lines. Oh, that reminds me. Let me set it up. Da, 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 da. Hi, everybody. We're about 2 minutes from air. What a story. Somebody wants to know, why weren't the police on scene, not allowing you to jump into harm's way? That'd be interesting to ask. A lot of people happy to see Madman again. All right. Ready to rock. It's my nicotine gum. Here we go. Time to rock and roll. Woo! Hello, Periscope. All right, so what we're going to do is open the lines. Well, actually, let me note two things. Number one, I am now on Periscope. I promise that. And frequently on Fridays, we do sort of a Periscope session. So hello there, if you're watching. Generally seeing the back of my head. Can't be very exciting, but you can see the show kind of in motion from that angle. So I set it up that way rather than facing me and my ugly mug. No point in that. So we have classic stuff here. Mike Madman Markum. You have now heard his story, I think, to date. I'm sure there's much more to say. For example, Mike, here's a question. Somebody wants to know why, for example, weren't the police there or somebody to stop you from jumping through? They had to know that you were building up to it, right?
Well, that's the thing. I kind of, after all the publicity, I basically, the only people that knew about it is the people that donated. So I never told anybody else. Not the people at work, nobody. So.
Well, that really does make sense to me because somebody surely would have stopped you, right?
I don't know if they would have or not. I mean, technically, it'd be kind of hard to prove it was a suicide attempt. I mean, and when it exactly wasn't. So.
They might have looked at that equipment and figured out it was going to be a suicide, no matter what. Hold on one sec, Mike. All right, so phone lines are open, folks. Here it is. Finally, they're open. You can ask questions if you would like, and I'm sure you have questions. This is a man who's traveled in time. Area code 952-225-5278. Put a 1 in front of that. 1-952-225-5278. If you're calling on Skype, MITD51, or outside North America, MITD55. They probably would have, I think, Madman figured you were going to do yourself in, and somebody would have stopped you, I'm sure.
Well, nobody did.
Nobody did, as it turns out, but
if you check out, there's plenty of YouTube videos where everybody, they actually have suicide videos on YouTube. And,
really?
Yeah, yeah. There's just about everything on YouTube. If you look hard enough, but there's all sorts of weird things on YouTube, including that stuff, and including some guys standing on top of electric trains, basically just reaching up and grabbing the 25,000 volts of power of the train, and when you do that, it zaps you like a bug. So
that's right. All right, somebody wants to know, because there was a rumor, Mike, that you did an experiment with a cat. Is that true or not?
No, I don't know where that came from. Somebody made that up due to lack of information, because basically after the first round of publicity, I more or less made up my mind. It's like, oh God, I can't stand being a celebrity. So
yeah, I know you don't seek out fame. I'm very well aware that you don't seek out fame, Mike, and so it's a honor to have you on the show. It really is.
Well, yeah, no, not everybody. Like every Hollywood actress or actress, whatever. Not all of them basically like the limelight. So I compare myself to Jodie Foster. I don't mind basically every now and then, but as far as people knocking on my door 24/7. It's really, to me, it's disconcerting having somebody I don't know run up to me and ask for my autograph. So
I know the feeling. Go to restaurants and people want to, anyway. Listen, Mike, people want to know, if you were to do this again, let's think about it for a second. You could conceivably hopscotch into the future again and again and again. Maybe you could figure out a way to do it with less trauma to your own person, and you would still be a young man in the year 20, whatever you want.
Yeah, like I said, the problem is it's a one-way trip. It's like the same thing as using relativity.
Yes.
So,
well, it is a one-way trip.
That's the advantage of, everybody. It's already been scientifically proven you can use gravity to dilate time. Well, basically, I'm using electromagnetism, which is 10 to the 30th times stronger.
Right.
So
right.
I don't need basically a black hole to do this. So.
They're getting ready to try to create a black hole at CERN. You have any thoughts on what might happen when they do?
Well, they're going to be basically. I'm with everybody else. Like as far as all the other physicists, as far as that goes, they'll be so small they'll evaporate almost immediately.
I hope you're right. I really hope that's what happens.
Well, if not, it'll swallow the Earth at nearly the speed of light, and we won't even see it coming. So.
Yeah, it'll be over. Oh, just like that. All right, on Skype, you are on the air with Madman. Hi. I think it's somebody named Torch. You're on the air. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Art? Welcome back.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, the key thing that you really need the most is funding, right?
Funding or equipment. So.
Okay, well, if you could travel into the future, or even if you can travel into the past, wouldn't the number one thing would be to find out what the numbers are going to be for tomorrow and come back and play those numbers, and you'd be able to fund yourself with millions of dollars?
Well, I mean, obviously that's the first thing I thought. I actually had a reporter ask me that back in 1995 when it's like, what were you planning to do with this thing?
Right.
When I actually told him I was going, I'm going to go into the future, get the lottery numbers, and then come back and give them to myself. I mean, when I told him that, I was actually laughing when I said it. It was a joke. I mean, I didn't think they would take it seriously. They hung on every word I said, so.
Right. That would be the key to do, though, don't you think?
Well, that's the problem. The thing stopping me from doing that, though, is I don't know how to go in reverse. I mean, like I said, I can't go back before I turn this thing on. The best I could do is if I turn it on today, I can go to tomorrow, and then come back to today, but I have to keep the thing on the whole time.
Is there any way you could send, information?
So much energy, I can't do it. It can't be done.
Yeah, he was asking if there's any way you can send back information.
I haven't really looked into that. I mean, I've heard of other people use like this one guy supposedly made a TV that can see the future or whatever, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So
what would really bother me is to lose you. I mean, really lose you. I thought you were lost for 2 years, Mike, and now I have this feeling. I just have this feeling that you're going to rebuild somehow. Well,
that's the eventual goal anyway. So, I mean, it may or may not happen. Now, there's this. I guess if it happens at some point in the future, I can't really say it didn't happen. But there's this story floating around me on the internet where I ended up back in 1930 crushed in some tube with a cell phone in my hand or something. Well, as far as I know, that didn't happen, but that's not to say that I don't do it at some point in the future. I don't see how, because I don't know how to go back to any arbitrary point in the past. So,
I've got to say that even going forward in hops and holding your youth at the same time, if you didn't have to end up with a headache, no ID, and in the middle of a field somewhere, would be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking back on it, the foolish thing I done, I mean, basically was I didn't wear a Faraday cage when I dumped into it. I didn't think I needed one.
I guess
I know better now, so.
Guess you did. All right, let's go to, Kansas City on the phone. Hi, you're on the air.
Hello, Art. How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things for you. I'm a skeptic. I love your time travel talk. I love hearing it. I love reading it. It's great.
Are you a skeptic of what Mike did?
Well, not necessarily. The proof is in the pudding, naturally, okay? The thing that bothers me on a situation like this, you travel in time, you lose track of 2 years, person can go into a coma, okay? My thing is a two-way travel. You go forward, you come back. You go back, you come forward.
Well, that would be ideal.
It would be ideal, and it would be the real proof, okay? And the other thing, and Mike, this is for you, okay? I have a lot of close family, a lot of close loved ones keep track of me. What did your family say or think this time you were gone?
Oh, good question. A really good question. How about it, Mike?
Well, they thought I vaporized myself, so they were freaked out.
Did they submit any reports to the police? Did they, a missing person report or anything?
That's actually one of the first things I did when I was in that homeless shelter. I ended up going to the library and doing a search myself and see if, and nothing turned up. So basically, I don't know if they filed missing persons or not. Basically, they said they did, but I can't find anything. So.
All right. Here is somebody named Clay who is on the wormhole saying, has Madman ever considered creating a Kickstarter page to fund yet another project? With the proper funding, he could even keep a video blog to record his results, thus proving the experiment works?
You know what? That's actually I never actually considered that. I mean, usually with Kickstarter, it's things with well, I mean, with at large, there's probably so much skepticism. I don't think I'd get that much anyway. So.
Okay.
So, but,
it's not a bad.
It's actually an idea.
It is.
I mean, in one of your original callers from from '95, they asked me if I was going to be publishing. Well, I'm not your typical. Basically, one of your other guests. Most of your other guests already have like a book published or whatever, and then they go on your show to promote it or whatever.
Yes, I know. You don't have a book to sell, right?
Yeah, I don't. It's like I've never. That's my weak thing. On the technical side, I'm a math and science guy. As far as basically the English side of it, when I was in college, I barely passed that.
All right. Here's what I recommend, Mike. Seriously, there will be a lot of people who would be willing to ghost author for you or co-author for you. So, in other words, you could, in detail, with drawings that, if you can remember, of the equipment, the warehouse, the whole thing, everything that's happened beginning to end, as you've told it on this story, on this show rather, but in more detail, and write a book. I recommend you do it. Now, I'm not sure how we connect.
I did remember Stephen Hawking's publisher said every formula including this is going to cut your cells in half. So,
if we have a publisher who would like to do this, how about I have them contact my producer? You know her, very nice girl, Heather.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe you should make a book deal, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody else is going to write it, I mean, I could write all the technical, basically the meat and potatoes of it, and they can more or less do the rest. So.
Man, if anything deserves to be published, it's this. And that it would go a long way toward, I think, funding any project you want. It's just an idea. David,
yeah.
You're on with Madman Markum. Hello.
Art, man, looking good. I see you on Periscope.
Oh, hi.
Question for Mark, or Mike.
Mike.
So,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's intriguing because you don't really have an angle on this. I mean, you don't have a book deal like you said before. Art kind of found you back in '95. So what about the witnesses? I mean, is there anyone out there that can corroborate your story? I mean, where are they at? Maybe we can find them tonight. I don't know.
Basically, like I said, I can't remember. There was what was her name? Her last name was Sanderson. That's the only one I can remember. So, but originally, there was like 25 or 30 people that basically were there when I was running this thing. So.
All right, just like the police officer who contacted me and actually went on the air. I mean, how often does that ever happen?
Crap. I just said it earlier. Oh, Tom Hampton.
I'm sure he could be found. I'm sure that some other people who were funding you.
He's actually still an officer in Stanbury, as far as I know. So.
Wow.
So basically, small town people, they more or less grow up and die there. So.
I do understand.
I hope you can find, some of the people that were there in the warehouse,
Right. I think it's a wonderful idea, caller. Thank you very, very much. And put it all together, chronicle it in a book, as best as you can remember it. I understand that your memory got harmed. Certainly, that's not a surprise.
Yeah. When I was talking to Heather yesterday, I was telling her about this experiment where they were basically taking these 8 Tesla magnets, which is a really, really strong magnet, but they actually got it. The tech is mature enough where they actually make that handheld. And they were actually showing it off for the Discovery Channel, where they're actually taking that thing, pulsing it into some guy's brain and he's counting from 1 to 10 while this thing's pulsing in his head, and it was actually messing with his speech centers where he couldn't talk, where he couldn't count.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. So
it's like these guys are PhDs, and it's like, oh my God. You basically know more about this than I do, and you're still doing it.
It's almost like you were in a timeless coma for 2 years. I don't know how else to think about it. I mean, you've got to ask yourself, I certainly ask, where was Madman for 2 years? Where were you? Did you simply jump through that time and land on the field? It seems that way.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I didn't, like I said, I didn't physically age as far as I could tell. I mean, my fingernails were the same length as they were. I didn't have not even 1 day's growth of facial hair. So, as far as I could tell, I just skipped over that 2 years. So.
All right, let's stay with the phone and go to next, whatever next is. Hello.
Hey, Art, this is Tom from Florida. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Tom. What's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I missed part of the show, unfortunately, and I just wanted to ask Mike, did you have any feedback from the government or anything? Did any government officials get in contact with you? I mean,
that's a very, very good question. A very good question.
I mean, well, that's another thing. I mean, Hollywood, basically, they'd have me, the Men in Black show up and make me disappear. Well, obviously that didn't actually happen. So,
did anybody from the government at all contact you?
No, basically you would think they would. I'm sure they have spy satellites everywhere, so I'm sure they know about it. But no, I didn't hear a peep out of them. Nobody came knocking on my door, offering me money, saying, "Hey, come work for us. We'll give you all the funding you need." I mean, that happens in every Hollywood movie you ever watch, but
not real life.
Reality is a little bit different. So
that's incredible, Mike. You would think that some government agency, DARPA, somebody.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think, Department of Energy or DARPA, or, really, actually DARPA, because basically they fund all sorts of strange things. So yeah, you'd think they would be coming, like knocking on my door, checking hand, but nope, didn't happen.
If they were to come to you now, what would you cooperate with them or not?
Usually, I mean, the thing with DARPA, I don't have firsthand experience with them, but I'm willing to bet they try to militarize every. I mean, basically, the check isn't free and clear. There's always strings attached.
I hear that.
So.
All right. Very quickly, let's try this. You're on the phone and on the air.
Hi, Art. What a pleasure to be on the phone with you and with Mike. First of all, I want to say that I appreciate your interest in time travel because
never ending.
Because you have such an interest. It allows all of us who also have an interest to enjoy these topics in depth. But my question is this. We know obviously that he ended up in our dimension. In other words, when he went through this so-called time machine, he didn't go into like another dimension or an alternate future. He obviously stayed within our own dimension, our own time, our own space. So that begs the question, the Earth is in a different spot 2 years from now. So if he ended up in the same locale, the same dimension as we're
Well, no, wait a minute. He moved 800 miles, remember?
No. The Earth.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So, in other words, why didn't he materialize in space? We're at a break, and I have to break. So, Mike, that is kind of a cool question, and one worth considering during the break. I'm Art Bell. Woo!
Hello, everybody on Periscope. Madman Markum's on the air. I'm looking at the wormhole. Huh? Someone wants to know if he was upset that he missed the Millennium New Year's Eve. Yeah, it's true. Including Rams. I know of no rumor that I will be on the X-Files revival. At least, not yet. See, I hear the commercials in my headphones. And that's my cue, thunder, and here it comes.
Doesn't screen calls. We trust you. But remember, the NSA, well, you know. To call the show, please dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-CALL-ART.
That's the landline number, and you're welcome to give us a call and ask Madman Markum whatever you like. And otherwise, of course, Skype is active and ready at your beck and call, as it were. Mike, welcome back.
Yep, glad to be here.
Jasmunda from Down Under, I know he's in Australia. He's wondering if you were upset that you missed the Millennium New Year's Eve.
Well, kind of. Technically, the Millennium wasn't so. Depending on who you ask, the Millennium didn't start to 2001 anyway, so.
Good point. It is depending on who you ask, indeed. But, of course, it's just gone, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was kind of depressing, but I was at that point. I was more excited than depressed. So
I completely understand. All right, I believe it's Trey from Atlanta. Hi, Trey.
Hey, Art. I'm sort of reticent to say this, but I feel like with Madman here, and it is a huge honor to talk to you. Do you feel like even if you haven't personally, in perhaps this reality, have hit time travel, do you think an alternate version of you has?
Ooh. That's a pretty cool question.
If you consider like the multiverse theory, I guess if there's infinite versions of me, I guess so. I mean, if you think of it that way.
I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, by definition, basically, with infinite possibilities, everything that could possibly happen has happened, as far as that goes. But, I'm kind of more concerned about me rather than alternate me's. So.
Well, you are now how old, Mike?
According to my birth certificate, 42, but...
really only 40?
Yeah, biologically I'm 40.
So at 40, you're in your prime. There's no question about it. You're in your prime, and...
Yeah, hopefully with luck I'll have another 40, so...
Well, maybe you will. And, again, what are you going to do with it? I mean, somebody who's already done the incredible thing that you've done can't just give up.
Oh, of course. Of course not.
So you're gonna build, aren't you?
Well, if I can, I will.
Hello there. You're on the air with Madman Markum.
I think the missing equipment in the warehouse part of your story is the weak link, because it's easy to find out who owns a commercial building. We all know all you have to do is go to the local courthouse records department,
sure,
or a realtor or an attorney, and they will tell you the name of the owner of the warehouse. And you're much too brilliant, and you're not much too practical to have overlooked this because of losing all of your equipment and your notes. What's your explanation for this?
Mm-hmm. And the video. The video too.
Well, basically, like I said, as far as the video goes, all that disappeared with the equipment. But
right.
Believe it or not, that didn't actually cross my mind. So as far as like looking up the realtor or the building or whatever. So
why not? I mean, I would think you would definitely want to know what happened to your stuff.
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, I would, but like I said, basically, you know what? That didn't actually cross my mind. I mean, like I said, at first I couldn't even remember. I didn't even have the brains to remember my own name. So,
I know that the stuff was there. I know
when I actually went back there, I actually stayed there for a week. But yeah, believe it or not, the week I was there, I didn't actually think to go to the courthouse. Do
you mean that you stayed in the warehouse for a week when you went back?
No, I mean, no. I just
in town.
It was, yeah, I mean, it basically made me really depressed being there and seeing it empty. So I got the hell out of there. So.
I totally get that. That would be depressing. It's like, where did everything go? Overseas somewhere. Hi there. You're on the air with Madman.
Hi.
Hi. Where are you?
I am in Japan, and for some reason I'm hearing myself. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Good.
I was going to say that I feel kind of like I'm traveling myself because I'm watching you on Periscope, and it's about 15, 20 seconds ahead of the radio that I'm listening to.
It's a type of time travel.
Yeah. But I guess I had two questions.
Sure.
One of them, or a question and a comment. One is that on the DARPA side of things, if everything that we hear is, or even if half of what we hear is true, I would think that they wouldn't really need you, honestly. I feel like, to a certain extent, they'd probably be way beyond what you're doing, and their only interest would be to shut you up, if anything. Yeah. They probably just figured, he'll burn himself up, or do it wrong, or he won't remember, or we've already done that, so we don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of a good point, Mike. If you've done this...
You know what? That could be why they haven't knocked on my door. They already know more than I do. So
there you go.
And the question
I had was,
they
have billions of dollars to do stuff with. So
I didn't get to hear the whole show yet. I'll go back and listen to it because I'm subscribed. But you talked about the warehouse being empty. But did you have like a house that you were living in the town? Was that still there? Was your personal possessions and stuff still there?
Good question.
Or did that get
well, actually, at the time, the house I had at the time was in St. Joseph, Missouri. That was all long gone too. That basically other people were living there now. Wow.
So your family or anybody keep any of your stuff? I mean, do you have any personal belongings or anything? Because I feel like that would be a big loss.
I basically had to start over. So wow. I'm sure basically I don't know. Well, what happens to stuff when somebody disappears for 2 years?
You will hear when you listen to the rest of the show about his ID being gone. About it a lot. Trust me.
More or less. I basically was in the same boat with somebody's house burning down and with all their possessions inside. In 2000 I had nothing. So
I imagine when you went back to the warehouse, I'm sure it was just a gigantic, depressing moment.
Oh yeah, I mean,
here's what I imagine. I imagine that perhaps either whoever owned the warehouse or perhaps the tenant that came to the warehouse after you disappeared, literally, had everything just dragged away somewhere and probably put in, the junkyard. I hate to say that, but...
Yeah, I mean, those electromagnets were, probably. They probably sold it for scrap and got quite a bit of money from it because there was a lot of copper in that. So...
God knows they rip up copper, from... radio antennas have radials. They rip that up and sell it as copper. It's horrible what's going on. Daniel Hello, Daniel, on Skype. You're on the air with Madman.
Hi, guys.
Hi there.
This is actually Dimitri, and Daniel's my son. He was the one that put the call through, but I just wanted to say that it's a great honor to talk to both Art and Madman Markum.
Thank you.
I've listened to the original broadcast back in the mid-'90s when I was a teenager, and I was fascinated by the story.
Well, in that case, can you verify that what you heard then is basically what you heard now?
Yeah.
Except for the new stuff.
I would say so. And as I said, many years went on since the original broadcast, and this story just stuck with me. It was always in the back of my mind. I would think about it every now and again. I always wondered what happened to Madman, and I tried every now and again to hop online and try to see if there was any new information. Just maybe a couple of months ago, I probably spent a whole day digging online and came up with little things here and there, and actually found a story about him, appearing 800 miles away, and I thought for some reason that was some bogus story, but now hearing it from, Michael Markum himself, I gotta say, hey, you know what? That really did happen. But what I wanted to ask is, okay, so there was a warehouse where all of this equipment was set up, and, I'm sure all these people were there watching Michael jump in. He disappeared. Obviously, there was something to this machine, to all of this machinery. It wasn't just a joke. I mean, guy either teleported someplace, whether he went, forward or backwards in time, it doesn't matter, because either one of those scenarios would still be out of this world, and I just don't see anyone scrapping this stuff, because there is a lot more to it than just,
I don't know,
a bunch of transformers sitting around. And I was going to say, tracking these people down wouldn't be that hard, because obviously at some point, there's someone's name that was attached to the lease or title.
Of course. You know what else? You know what else is also possible, caller? And that is that somebody did know exactly what happened, and somebody came in who knew what they were doing and took it all away.
Right. And then another thing I was going to ask is, whatever happened to the videotapes? I mean, I know, obviously, Michael doesn't know how to get a hold of any of these guys, but, you'd think that if something like this happened and someone got it on video, it's bound to make its way to YouTube. I mean, I've checked all over. There's nothing.
Well, the answer to that is all that stuff, the recording of all this was done in the warehouse. So this stuff was in the warehouse, including the camcorder, right, Mike?
Yeah, a camcorder, several hours of footage, and my personal journal, basically, where I more or less write down the date and basically the experiments that day I did. So,
including, I would imagine, your ID and anything metal you had that you were carrying.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I usually had that on me until that day I was actually going to jump in, because I didn't want that basically erasing. So. Because there's like a magnetic stripe on the back, and if you erase that, well, you can't swear it doesn't work anymore. So,
Right, but these people were at the warehouse when everything went down, while the video camera was set up, recording the whole event. And so you'd think that one of those guys would probably grab the camera after the fact, or at least grab the tape, so they would have some kind of proof of, hey, you know what, I've witnessed a guy either
that, sir, or they didn't want any evidence of this.
True. Well, in any case, fascinating story. Loved it. And you know what? I really hope that Mike can go forward with this. And you know what? Maybe put out a shout out, because I know there's a lot of people who listen to the show that would probably like to contribute, just like the folks back in the day did. And go forward.
Okay, thank you. I honestly think that one of the better paths now for Mike might be to find a publicist and sit down with a publicist, and even if you have to do regressive therapy, in order to bring back some of the details that got blasted away when you went through, somehow commit all of this to paper and do exactly what everybody else in the world does, write a book.
Yep. I'm actually looking at this one guy suggests, I'm actually looking at the website now, go to tell him to set up a GoFundMe account.
Yeah, GoFundMe or, well, that's crowdfunding, right?
Yeah, well, one thing I do want to avoid is, well, I know this one guy, he supposedly had some sort of free energy device, and they ended up sending him to prison for securities fraud, so I definitely don't want to basically end up falling in his shoes.
No, we don't want you back in the pokey again.
Yeah, that's as far as that goes, that's what basically, he more or less said, here's a free, I have an engine that runs on water, and well, I guess he ended up filing on his company on the New York Stock Exchange, and then he couldn't deliver, and well, basically they more or less sent him to prison for securities fraud, so.
There are a few things that we do know for sure. We know you did the experiment. We know you ended up 800 miles away from the point of the experiment. And we know that 2 years disappeared. Madman Markum is my guest. He is not a French fry. Yet. And he may do it again. Or maybe not. Maybe he'll just write a book.
Okay, everybody, that's television for this week. Thank you all. Let me give you a brief look at the rest of the studio. This is, I don't have a lot of time here, but that's where I get my questions from everybody who is a time traveler. They come in just like that. I wonder if I can get close to that. Yeah. See, they come in, hundreds of them. And let's see, there's equipment down there you can see. That's my regular computer. And this is equipment that I don't have much time here. So, listen, that's my simple way to travel in time. And that is the heating pad for my back. Take care, everybody.
My trust in time and waited for the rock to wear down around me. I was free again. Thousands of centuries had passed, but the earth had stayed green. There was no winter, no wars. Had man finally learned to control both the elements and himself? I had to stop and find out.